So this evening I am joined by former Grand Prix racer Jed Metcher. So just before I start, it is actually nearly 10:30 here in Ireland. So if this is a true commitment to the job, I don't know what is, because I like going to bed early. So Jed, how are you keeping, and how is the lockdown situation over in Australia?
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating, really. Yeah, as we were chatting a little bit before, where Victoria is more locked down than the rest of Australia. So, yeah, it's been a bit poo, to be honest. But I'm a refrigeration mechanic, so I work in the supermarkets and whatnot. So work has been the same. But yeah, we haven't been able to do much fun stuff lately.
So obviously, the whole COVID thing, I suppose over here anyway, a little bit of racing got underway, but it's kind of been, the racing season, I suppose, has kind of been put on halt for 2020. But just to go back a little bit, how did you first kind of get involved in motorbike racing?
Well, geez, that's going back a lot. So I started off on dirt bikes just out at the farm where my family lived in Coldstream, and got pretty much jumped on little Pee-wee 50 road bikes out of the little go-kart track when I was 10, and I just got hooked from that point. And I lucky enough, my old man is a bit of a gun in all areas. He's just a legend. He's a good mechanic. He pretty much made my career what it was just through being really, really handy. And yeah, we bought me a 125 GP bike 2004, I think it was. So I would have been 14. And we jumped on the track, and yeah, just developed from there, really. From there, we got a little bit of a sponsorship deal to race 125 GP in Australia. And then I did a wild card into 125 GP World Championship at Phillip Island when I was 18, I think it was. Did 1 year on Aussie Supersport, and then straight to German Superbike in 2010, and yeah, it sort of developed from there.
And then, of course, as you say, you were kind of playing around for super sports and whatever. And then your first kind of full season, I suppose. So from, as you say, from Australia to Germany, and then, of course, to World Superbikes in 2012. It kind of just progressed. You kind of progressed up through the ranks. How did the 2012 thing come around with World Superbikes? Was that kind of just right place, right time, or was that kind of the plan starting out?
It wasn't necessarily, there was no real plan, to be fair. So I jumped on, I went 125, 600, and then Superbike like in 3 years consecutively. And I went German Superbike in 2010. So it was a massive step, and it tested me massively too. Like I struggled for the first part of the season. I think my best result was 11th at Sachsenring. Or it might have been 9th, but I was miles off the front of the field, so it was a struggle. But my team manager at the time, Rob Venegor, he was team owner, team manager of our team Motorsports. He also had Gareth Jones racing with me, so I had a really good. Gareth was an Aussie guy who he looked after me massively. I lived with him and his Mrs. Steph, and it made it a lot easier. And yeah, Rob Venegor decided that, well, he made a good decision in putting me on a stock 600 in a world championship for the last race in Magny-Cours with MTM Racing, and I qualified 7th, and just out of pure luck, I was in the right place at the right time, but I was sitting 3rd in the race, and the two guys in front of me took each other out, and I won the race in my first attempt at stock 600. So it gave me the opportunity to sign a contract with MTM Racing for 2011, and in that year I think it was 3 pole positions. I had 2 race wins in stock 600, and I think it was 6 podiums, and I won the championship. So in my first attempt in stock 600, I won the championship, and that gave me the opportunity to sign up with Riva Moto and Jeremy McWilliams in World Supersport on a Yamaha, which was at the time, it was a bit of a just jump into it call, and it was, I guess it was worth the risk to jump into a small sort of private team that didn't have a lot of experience, but it was hard. It was a really tough year, and it probably yeah, if I had the finances and the support to maybe go to one of the bigger, more well-known teams, it probably would have been a better decision for my career. But that's always hindsight, Hindsight's a great thing, and we had some good results. But yeah, it was tough, and it was when the global financial crisis and everything was having a massive effect on the racing, and I wasn't one of those riders that had a great deal of backing, so it was tough to get a ride each year in that time.
And then did you as well, Jeremy, was Jeremy your manager in 2012 for that team, or was he?
Yes, Jeremy was crew chief in that team. So crew chief, team manager, and he was awesome to work with. It was great to have so much experience, and he was also he was a good fun guy to work with. Like you could tell he was at the back end, he's well and truly at the back end of his career, but he was still really fast. He still is really fast, and I also raced him quite a bit in the last 5 years in the Island Classic down at Phillip Island. So we went head to head after he was my team manager in 2012, which was really cool. It was a very good experience. And he actually beat me in a few races, which was, he gave me a hiding probably in a few races, and vice versa. I beat him in a few too. So it's an awesome relationship that we built. It was a tough year. We didn't go as well as we wanted to. So you can imagine when you've got competitive people in a team and it's not going well, there was a few few arguments and whatnot, but there was always drinks afterwards. And it was a very cool year to go, travel around the world, and with an XGP rider like Jeremy, it was pretty special.
And then, of course, 2015, a slightly different kind of, I suppose, pathway again in the sport or whatever. But you competed in the British Superbikes over in England. So what was that like, I suppose? I know you'd kind of been in Europe, like in Germany and different things. And then, of course, with World Superbikes, you were kind of traveling as well. But what was it like kind of basing yourself in England? Or did you base yourself in England for that season?
Yeah. So the build up to England was prior to BSB was actually, there was a bit of a story behind it all. I ended up in German Supersport in 2000. So I did World Supersport, ended up in German Supersport in 2013. Wasn't too bad a year, but wasn't enough to get an awesome contract. So I came home and I started a business called Race Centre with Darren Skiveris, and my old man was involved, and we sort of made this this really out there plan that we were going to build a World Superbike, and just obviously I didn't have a lot of finances behind me, so it was a bit of a, I'd either sign a contract with a sort of team that was half there, half not, and then sort of struggle it out in Europe with bugger all money, or we build this World Superbike, use some Aussie sponsors, use all Aussie manufacturers, and try to do this like out there crazy result in World Superbike wildcard in 2015. So we spent the whole of 2014 developing the bike. I had a massive crash. I broke all 5 metatarsals in my foot and tore a big hole in my leg and broke my tib and fib in my leg, and I had a big 2-month hiatus where I just sort of focused on the business and recovering with my leg rather than the World Superbike project. And in that time, I was just on the internet talking to everyone, and I ended up getting a couple of wild cards in with Stock 1000 in a World Championship with EAB Racing on a Panigale Ducati. And in that time, Rob Venegal also organised me a couple of wildcards in British Superbike with PR Racing. So yeah, it was like one of those weird mixed up years where I was injured, building the World Superbike here, so doing all the development, and then I just sort of chucked it all out the window and jumped on a plane and went and did the wildcards. I had a decent result in Magnicor. I finished third in the Stock 1000 in the wet. Which was a massive relief because I had a tough year, and it was like one of those huge emotional relief moments where I was like, oh shit, I can ride a motorbike again. Like I'm not actually got a result. And then I had a couple of decent results in Assen on the PR Superbike, but when I got to Brands Hatch on the PR bike, I was like, oh wow, the British Superbike is World Superbike is fast. Like guys are fast there, but in the Superbike class, there's only like maybe 10 to 15 guys that are really fast, and then it sort of tapers off because the levels, I don't know, there's a big difference from
Yeah.
the front to the back. But with British Superbike, you know, you've got 20 really fast competitive guys at their home track before you can even get close to looking at a point, you know. So I think I was competitive there. I think I was racing around the track with Brian Starring at the time. I was doing a wild card as well. We were maybe 14, 15, 13, something like that. And that was enough to get me a contract for 2015 in British Superbike with PR. And to be honest, it looked awesome from the outside. I thought, oh, you know what, this is a good thing. You know, everything should kind of like line up and come good, but it wasn't that easy once we got started. Struggled with how raw the bikes are with heaps of horsepower and the lack of electronics and whatnot. So it was a tough year, but it was massively character building. And British Superbike, I loved it. I love being there. I love the family feeling about, you know, how everyone stays in the paddock and the camper van situation. Everyone catches up after. Obviously, you would know, everyone knows there's heaps of Aussies there, like Billy McConnell, Dave Johnson, Glenn Richards, all those guys are absolute legends to hang around with. You know, it was a bit of fun, and Ben Curry as well. I actually lived with Ben out in the north of Wales in what was the name of that? Holywell. So it's a tiny little Welsh country town. Pretty much the best thing about it is a golf course because it just rained that often that the grass is so bloody green. And yeah, we pretty much played golf and trained every day, and it was a really good year. I loved it. On track, it was really frustrating. I struggled. I think I got a couple of good, decent results, but it wasn't special, and it was a year that was more character building than results based. But it was a lot of fun that year as well.
Well, everything experience, I suppose. So you can just add to your little bucket list or whatever for things to achieve within the sport. But just moving on, I suppose, a little bit. You kind of explained briefly to me about a thing you'd set up called Metcher Motorsports. So I suppose tell us a little bit more about that and what exactly that is.
Yeah, Metcher Motorsports, a team that I created pretty much to give a stepping stone process from the Supersport 300 class to Supersport 600 and then Superbike. I've used myself as the guinea pig, I guess, on the Superbike to start the promotion of the team. So the sponsors have like a really good platform to get advertising, and we're Metcher Motorsports, just me, my dad, Craig Brewster, Travis Schmitz, Shane Reynolds, pretty much a group of like enthusiasts that, you know, motorsport for me, or racing motorbikes for me, sort of stopped for a couple of years, maybe 2-3 years. I still did the occasional race meeting, obviously, like against Jeremy, the historic racing, and I did a few wild cards into Australian Superbike, just to sort of dip my toe in the water and enjoy it. And then I decided, you know what, we need to create a pathway for young guys to come through, and just use my name as the sort of leverage to get the sponsors together again. And so we've got an awesome list of product sponsors. The team pretty much, we're not a rich team, you know, we're by no means we've got a heap of money, but we've got enough funds to make it look awesome. You know, we're the only Australian Superbike team with a rider in each class. We're completely Yamaha backed, so we're R3, R6, R1, and which are all awesome competitive bikes at the moment. And you know, the R1's an absolute weapon, so everyone knows the sound of that R1, and everyone loves to listen to that thing go by. So yeah, we've got a kid, Caleb Gilmore from New Zealand, who's sitting fourth in the championship after the first round on the R3 in the Supersport 300 class. He's a bit of a gun, and he's sort of the protege, I guess you would call it. And he's the first step in Metcher Motorsports, I guess, travels to helping a young guy come through the classes. We've got Ty Lynch on Supersport 600, which he's also a gun. He's got heaps of Australian titles in dirt track and whatnot, and he's just been riddled with injuries, unfortunately. So he's had a bit of a poo start to the year. He's had a shoulder reconstruction, but we've had COVID, so we haven't done any racing really anyway. We've done one round. Yeah, so there's a couple of races coming up, but it's very unlikely that they actually happen. Well, they could, they've been scheduled to happen, but with the states being closed off, it's a little bit hard to guarantee it.
I was going to actually ask, I suppose it kind of comes with the territory, like, you know, the risk factor or whatever of getting hurt. But you yourself, like throughout your career, would you have suffered, I suppose, with many injuries or kind of setbacks like that, or were you one of the lucky ones?
Yeah, no, I definitely had a heap of injuries. Like I was saying, my leg in 2014 was a massive recovery. I pretty much both collarbones, wrists, shoulder. That shoulder's pretty bad from no breaks in it, but just from dislocations. Yeah, I think it's pretty comes hand in hand. Like as guys that have had a lot more injuries than me, some of the guys in BSB are pretty much riddled with titanium. I would say. I've seen a couple of huge crashes over there.
Mm. And then I suppose, you know, it's the current times that I suppose the world is in at the minute with coronavirus. It's kind of hard to plan ahead. But I suppose looking ahead in an ideal world for 2021, what would you kind of hoping to achieve, I suppose, with especially with the team you've set up as well, I suppose, what would your plans for next year be?
Yeah, so next year is going to be pretty much a restart for us because of what's happened this year. What we did in the COVID break, we built all brand new bikes. So we've got all brand new R1, R3, R6s ready for next year. And I guess the development of the new bikes will be focused going through Christmas. We're a little bit lucky in Australia that we have summer when it's Christmas time around here.
Oh yeah.
So we can ride all the way through, unlike you guys over there who are probably absolutely frosty. I remember a few of the winters in Holland and obviously in England it's not a great deal of fun. So yeah, the weather's actually hot over here and it's our holiday period. So between developing motorbikes, we'll be water skiing and enjoying Christmas and yeah, hopefully we can get the year off to a good start. End of Feb, we do World Superbike, we do Australian Superbike as in conjunction with them. So yeah, hopefully we can hit the ground running there. We should have the same riders for next year. Possibly another young rider would be good on the 300s. It would be good to have a sort of a top tier 300 team where we can represent Yamaha with two riders to guarantee a good chance at championship. And yeah, the development of the bikes is pretty much key for the summer.
Well, Jed, very best of luck for next season, and hopefully you will get going as well with the whole coronavirus situation. But thank you very much for coming on this evening, and this morning for you. I still can't really get my head around that, but there you go. But thank you very much, and I hope everyone watching has enjoyed.
Yeah, thank you. I hope the whole world gets on top of this coronavirus. It's a bit of a headache, and I guess next time you're at BSB, say hi to BJ for me.
Thank you.
No worries, see ya.